Call the meeting order, first order of business, pledge allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of minutes, any corrections?
Move to approve.
Motion approved, and second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Bills, Candy? Nothing out of the ordinary?
No, we're good.
Is the one for Ramsey 9 on that list?
Is it like,
Ramsey 9 and Soper construction.
I don't know if you've seen it.
It's not on there?
We'll deal with it later then. Yeah, that's all right. I'll make a motion.
Got a motion to approve the bills, is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Any other questions or discussion? Roll call.
Britt,
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Lightfon,
Aye.
Brown.
Aye. Financial reports?
We have the one with the dental and vision, that's just a glitch in the system that we can't fix at the end of the year. So it's still gonna look. Emergency management, we're still waiting for funds from the state. Yeah. Otherwise, everything is good.
Okay.
Move to approve the financials.
We have a motion to approve the financial report. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Lightfon.
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Britt,
Aye.
Brown.
Aye. Treasurer's checks.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Olson,
Aye.
Lightfon.
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Britt,
Aye.
Brown.
Aye. Approval of agenda. Any changes? Anybody want to add anything?
I'd like to add a discussion about the HR.
New business? Okay. Anything else? Any motion?
Motion to approve the amended agenda.
Second. Motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Katie,
Morning.
morning.
I have a proposal from US Imaging to get my last set of books, my mortgage records, scanned and digitized. It's my largest set of records, so it's the largest amount at $45,222.13. Currently, there is $51,346.13 in the Enron account, plenty to cover it. I did take an average of how much we collect just on our document preservation fees every month. I took a low average of $450. It's probably more around $500. So even as the money is going out, the money is coming back in. It will deplete the fund quite a bit. I'm not overly concerned about that because that's what the fund is for. I also use part of that fund to pay for my computers and my scanners and things like that. But they'll probably be around $10,000 by the time this whole thing is over still. We will pay Tyler to put them in. That'll be another cost, probably not until the next year. But we're still getting Enron refunds from the Enron website, the share of the surplus. So that's also extra funds that go in there. So I think as far as funding the account, it's gonna be fine, and like I said, this is the last set of books, and we will have all of Ramsey County land records back to the beginning digitized, which is a big step forward, and
Good deal.
we'll start the long tedious process of getting them indexed so they're searchable by names and legal descriptions, but we've got to get this done first so that we have a complete set before we can start doing that. So I'm just looking for approval for that proposal,
Sure.
which I'm sure will get done next year.
We know that. Okay.
What do you anticipate the cost of Tyler coming in to move all the information once it's all scanned?
My most recent miscellaneous books, they charged me $4,000. I did ask them about that price, and they told me it was a flat fee. So I'm not sure if that's by volume, but it could run for, or if they do it per image or something like that. But they said flat fee, so I would certainly bring that up at the time.
I was just kind of curious, you know, to make sure that any balance we have in there will be enough to cover that too, so that we don't scan all the images and then not have the money to move them over, that would be any good.
I've worked really well with Tyler over the years, and so I think we could work something out regardless.
Okay, that's kind of what I think.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve allowing the scanning of the.
Okay, we have a motion?
Second.
We have a second? You anticipate being done by like the end of the year? No,
Next year.
next year.
Well, the scanning part of it done. I don't anticipate necessarily having it put into Document Pro. Because normally a project like this takes almost a whole year. They do it in phases. They come on site, they scan, then they send us the original scanned images, then they examine them for enhancements and improvements, then they send us that to review, and then they send us the final. So all of that takes quite a while. Plus they blind index them, which means they're indexing document number, book, and page twice. And this is a big set of books, so that's gonna take some time.
A lot of images, it looks like.
It is a lot of
Yeah.
images. There's 120 some books probably they'll be scanning.
The big ones.
They're big books, yeah.
Over 100,000 images, it looks like.
Yeah.
A lot of work.
Okay, we're
When
gonna,
it's done.
any other discussion? Got a motion and a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thanks, Katie.
Thank you very much.
Stacy?
Good morning.
Morning.
We're staying busy for the month of August. We had 111 total veterans and family members come through the office. The eyeglass thing, we got resolved just last Friday.
Oh, really?
With pressure from Hoban's office and from the VA. When Hoban's office pressured the VA, and the VA spoke with the eye clinic. They're going to try and talk with 2020 also. And so I delivered the eyeglass kit to the eye clinic on Friday morning. So that's off my back. So that part, it took a while, but we got it done.
Very good, very good.
Yeah,
Thank
and in that meantime, I had 4 veterans come in to pick frames out. Each one made a phone call to Hoban's office because they were thoroughly disgusted with what was available to them. So, okay, then a bit of other information came to my attention early last week. There's an effort in the federal Congress and in the Senate to recognize the Cadet Nurse Corps, which is from World War II. At that time, the government went to nursing schools and basically volunteered the nurses in school to become nurses for the government. And there is an attempt to recognize them and give them a veteran status, if for nothing else to get burial benefits. Because in this situation, nearly all of them will be in their 90s. We do have one here in town.
Oh, there is one.
She stopped by and visited with me, and she just wanted me to be aware of it. And I did a radio thing on Thursday. It'll be out today, I believe, coffee time. And we're trying to find and make known to anybody else that's in the cadet nurse corps to contact me, and we'll make sure that they get recognized. And Senator Hoven wasn't on board with this yet, wasn't aware of it. Kramer was, and therefore now Hoven's going to also put his name on the bill, or Hoven is. And so that this is a good step for those of the cadet nurse corps that's still with us. And it'll be a big deal for them. And then the last item I got, first week of October, 7th, 8th, and 9th, I'll be in Fargo for our annual fall conference.
Thanks for your work on the eyeglass thing.
Yeah,
Are you
yeah.
up to speed dial with Hogan now, or?
I am.
Good. That's a good place to be.
Yeah. It's basically not the senator himself, his person, Monica Lindholm. She is fantastic with dealings with the VA. She has a couple contacts in there, and by God, they start dancing when she starts talking.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to recognize these nurses. I mean,
Yeah, that's
that didn't
another.
happen a long time
I
ago.
didn't catch the one that came in. She's 92, I think. I'm not sure, but they're all going to be. She went to nursing school in Minot. Half the class went overseas, the other half stayed in the U.S. and helped the war effort. And they weren't previously recognized. Was not aware of it.
That's excellent.
Very good. Anything else, Stacy?
That should do it.
Thank you. Roger.
Yeah, sure some of you already know, but we did not get our grant money for the wheelchair lift.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So,
Does that surprise us?
when I talked to the board, when I left, I knew it could be about a 50-50 chance, so. And we got the 50% no. Anyway,
Any reasons?
I-
Reasons? They give you any reasons why they denied it?
I never heard any reasons in particular, but when I was talking to them, it was kind of, well, why don't you just put it in the budget and do it? A couple of them kind of said something to that effect. So,
I suppose that means we're gonna have to put it in our budget and do it.
well, yeah. I do have it in the budget. We could do it next year, 2020. So we do have the one estimate for 39,000 plus change.
About
Yeah.
40 or something.
I'm sure that'll probably go up a little bit, I know it'd be nice to get 2 estimates at least, but for the begging I had to do to get that one, I don't know that I'm ever gonna get another one,
Right.
which really surprises me, but I don't know if we want to, what do you wanna do? Do you wanna just try and go ahead with that one and get them to put it in, or what?
And you went to North Central, is that right?
Yeah.
How many people on that board? You on there? No.
I don't know,
How many on that board, Roger? 5, 8?
No,
like 18.
8, 10?
It's a lot, it's more than 10 for sure.
Yeah.
But they've got an executive board that vets all of their proposals, and I'm
Oh, okay.
The exec board's the one that kind of put the grant stuff in there.
Okay. About 40, yeah. You wanna put it in next year's budget?
Well, yeah, like I said, actually, already have the money in the budget that we could do it next year.
You were pretty comfortable that this is a reputable outfit? I mean.
Well, yeah, I mean, Bismarck, it's, whatever health, I mean, technically, I know nothing about them, but
I don't either.
they do it, I mean, they do it on a pretty regular basis.
And they're out of Bismarck?
They're out of Bismarck.
Okay.
You said they put in the lift at the Catholic Church and.
Yeah, they did the one at the Catholic Church,
They
so,
should be happy.
I guess.
That's a good one.
Which-
Yeah, it's.
Yeah, I
it's
think
worked
that
well.
works pretty well.
Everyone's been happy with it.
Okay, let's do it.
I mean, if there's, that's my main thing is we want somebody that can service it if there's a problem, obviously. And if it's tough to get a bid from somebody, we don't wanna go to southern Minnesota or something to get somebody to put the thing in, we need somebody that's around the
Yes, I was,
we
I was
can
just
fix this
asking
problem.
for refresher course on
Yeah.
everything, but,
Mhm.
but you pretty comfortable with that?
I guess, yeah.
They could do it when?
Well, I haven't even asked them,
Right,
talked to
yeah.
them yet.
Yeah.
But try to get it
But
done.
we would just, yeah, we need it done and, you know, we'll have to wait until next year to have it in next year's budget. So,
But also on the bottom of this, it says that price is only good for 90 days.
yeah, and most of them do. And I said it'll probably go up a little bit, but I'm sure, you know, 5-10%, who knows?
Yeah, cause they came up and did the measurements and checked
They
everything
did
out,
the
so I mean,
measurements,
that's not like a guess, I mean, that's what the cost
Right,
is gonna be,
right.
give or take, you know,
Right.
you'd have to rebid it.
Well, they didn't understand what was taking us so long to decide, huh?
I did talk to them and told them we were gonna try and go through our local north central planning, so they knew then it would be a while, so, before they heard back from us.
Okay.
You need a motion?
Mm-hmm.
I'll make a motion to allow Roger to go forward working with this company to try to get it stuck in, get it for 20 or whatever to get it done.
I'll second. Another second, motion and a second, any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Okay, I've got a few other projects here. Building I'm gonna work on doing, put in new drinking fountains here on all the floors and probably the one in the Memorial Building. Maybe have one standard height at the one end and then one down lower for handicapped height. And then the one in the Memorial Building, we probably have down lower for the handicap height, because we have the one in the Armory that is normal, and the way that is set into the wall, it'd be pretty difficult to bring that one down, so we'll just leave, you know, working, getting estimates on that. And the concrete sidewalk going out towards Levers is pretty broken up, so I'm getting estimates on getting that repaired. And then out by the back entry there, the ceiling has got a lot of water stains and whatnot on it. And I'm trying to get some estimates to have that scraped down and retextured,
Okay,
so. And that should all take place this year yet, and yeah, I'll have money in the budget for that.
you got money in the budget for that. Drinking fountains, are you getting more in state?
Yeah, that should, it should be okay,
Yeah,
so.
and that's what everybody wants?
Well, you know what, getting a new style with the, you know, you got your little bars you push on the side to the front, you know, to make it more handicap accessible,
Okay.
so,
So those water pumps you have, they're probably original to the building.
oh, definitely.
It's not that great.
Serviced a lot of people then. Or serviced a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure they have.
Okay, I guess that sounds fine, just go forward with it, I don't think we need a motion, so.
Okay. As I get estimates, I'll come in with them and present to you.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Carrie,
Good morning.
what's, take you,
All right. Well, good morning. My name is Carrie Hunt. I'm from Blue Cross and Blue Shield. I also have with me Mike Middow. He has replaced me here in the Devil's Lake office. If you are not aware, I have taken on a manager's role now with Blue Cross down in Fargo. So Mike is going to be your new account rep here in the Devil's Lake office, but even though I'm in Fargo, I still will not be too far away from keeping my hands with Ramsey County. So, but thanks for having us. So, I know when we sent out the renewal, it's always not a fun job for us when we have quite a sticker shock when we look at what is going on with the increase in the premiums per se for your group. Kind of a little reminder for folks that are here. So Ramsey County has a self-funded insurance plan with Blue Cross and Blue Shield, which basically means you're kind of your own little insurance company within an insurance company. So you guys pay claims up to a stop loss level, which Ramsey County has set at $20,000. So what that means is when an individual incurs claims up to $20,000, they will pay their cost share for whatever plan design they have, and then Ramsey County will take care of all the claims up to that 20,000. So that's per person that's covered under your plan. So if you've got a family of 4, that would mean Ramsey County could have an $80,000 liability, for that family of 4 people. So it's $20,000 per life covered under this plan. So when we look at it over the last 2 years, Ramsey County has had quite an increase in their claims that we have seen. So once an individual hits 20,000, now Blue Cross and Blue Shield kicks in and pays to infinity. Okay, there's no limit on what Blue Cross is going to pay. So when we look at it, we charge you every month what's called a stop loss premium. And that stop loss premium is a fixed dollar amount that you will pay to Blue Cross, regardless, even if you don't have a claim, because that's going to take care of all the claims above and beyond that 20,000. Okay, so it's kind of like that insurance that you're paying to Blue Cross to take care of all of your claims over 20,000. That increase in from last year to this year is about 20%. Okay, and again, when you look at the claims, self-funded plans are purely driven by claims experience. So as claims continue to go up and increase every year, your stop loss premiums are going to go up every year. And if you look at it, kind of an example is, let's just say we have a $100,000 claim that comes through on an individual. Ramsey County pays 20, well, Blue Cross paid 80. Now in that next year, let's say the same thing happens, you didn't change your stop loss of 20,000, but now that same claim, maybe with inflation, is now 120,000. Your liability stayed at 20, but now Blue Cross has went up to 100. Okay, so that's why the increase in the stop loss premiums, Blue Cross takes on more risk each year. Okay, so when we looked at it, we talked to Candy about it, and kind of gave you guys some options to look at with the possibility of raising your stop loss premium, say from 20,000 to 25,000. Now we look at that, what that does is it puts on more liability onto you. So it lowers your stop loss premiums a little bit each month per individual that you cover. But again, does that outweigh the risk of you taking on more liability? Kind of to add to all of this in 2020 for Ramsey County is you guys are going to be taking on quite possibly about 40 new contracts with the inception of Benson, Rolette, and what's the other county?
Just those 2.
Those 2. Okay, and Towner?
Towner's with us.
Okay, so you're going to be possibly getting on 40 new contracts. Now, we don't know, we have no idea what their claim history is going to be. They are now all with ND PERS that are coming on, so we don't get individual claim data from that. We don't know how many lives total that's going to be. We just know it possibly could be 40 contracts. So, you have individuals, but you're going to have people with family that are going to be coming on board. So when we talked to Candy about it, by bringing on almost half, or more than half of the people that you already have on this plan, it isn't, I don't believe, in the best interest of Ramsey County to increase your stop loss premiums at this time in 2020, because we don't know what their claims are going to be. And when you increase, let's just say you increase your stop loss by $5,000, we move to a $25,000 stop loss, that's $5,000 of liability per covered life under this plan in 2020. So you could increase your liability by well over 100,000, 200,000 that would be put on you just on your stuff, on their liability, for maybe a difference in $30 a month in premiums. So when you balance that out, it might not be worth it. Now in 2021, that might be something to look at, is increase your stop loss premium, because then we at least would have 1 year of their claims under your belt. Okay? So that was one thing we talked about where, you can if you want, but I just don't think you're going to see the benefits in the first year of that unknown to raise your stop loss. The other thing we talked about is Ramsey County is on a grandfathered health plan through healthcare reform. So in healthcare reform, we had grandfather plans that were in place prior to March 23rd of 2010. And as long as the contributions haven't changed and they haven't made a plan design change, the government allows you to keep your plan. Now, grandfathered health plans are also immune to a lot of the preventative benefits and a lot of the mandates that we were forced to put into a lot of our new plans with healthcare, when we sell new plans. But grandfathering, to be honest with you, is probably eventually gonna see its way out the door. We can't write grandfather plans anymore, so as groups make changes, obviously, you know, that pool's gonna get smaller. And we're just seeing more and more groups that are saying, you know what? We may be looking at moving to a non-grandfathered plan. We do get additional benefits for our employees. So what Candy, I think, gave to all of you were the classic blue 250 plan that you have does not have all the preventative benefits that a non-grandfathered health plan could have. So if you were interested in looking at keeping your stop loss at 20, but possibly moving to a non-grandfathered classic blue plan, your employees would see a slug of preventative benefits that they currently do not have. And there's a sheet that I think was sent out to you, and probably the biggest, two of the biggest benefits in the preventative benefits that were passed with healthcare reform. One is gonna fall under the women's contraceptives. That was part of the benefits that we have to put in non-grandfathered plans. So that allows women to have contraceptive services at no cost. And it also involves the whole idea behind breast pumps and that whole thing that currently your plan does not have. So there's a whole women's contraceptive section that would go into a non-grandfathered plan. And the other one that would be in your plan if you went non-grandfathered would be the preventative colonoscopy. On your current plan, you do not have any coverage for preventative colonoscopy. So any of us that are 50 and over and your doc says, hey, you need to go in and get a baseline, if you do not have family history or you have not been doctoring for issues related to the stomach or the colon, you have zero coverage for a preventative colonoscopy on your current plan. And we can see in most of our employer groups, we are an aging population, and so we're gonna see more people that can take advantage of that. Now, on your current plan, if I'm not feeling well or I have family history, that is covered under your plan. It's subject to your deductible and your coinsurance. But preventative is not. So that's a huge benefit that gets put onto the non-grandfathered plans. Now, keep in mind with preventative services, when they are preventative, they are no cost to the member. Okay, so the member is not paying for those services when they go in to have them done. But they are claims that are coming through, so the group is going to be paying for those up to that $20,000. So what that does then when you become non-grandfathered is you take on, there's going to be more claims, we're hoping that people use it for that on the preventative side, which then increases your admin. So when you go from non-grandfathered to non-grandfathered, there is a slight increase in what we are looking at for expected costs. But after the first year, you typically will see a leveling out, if nothing else, even a decline, because now people are going in for preventative services and not waiting and having that big major claim. So the other benefit about becoming non-grandfathered is if you ever were to look at going down the road, and this is not to say that you have to do this, but being grandfathered, right now you guys pay 100% of everybody's policy. And the other little facet with healthcare reform, when they said if you're grandfathered, if you like your plan, you can keep it, it also meant you can make no changes to what even the contribution level is of your premiums. You get a 5% wiggle room. So Ramsey County, in order to keep their grandfathering plan, throughout the years, could maybe make a 5% reduction and go to 95 of a single plus dependent and family. That's as far as you could ever go to be able to keep your grandfathered plan. If you were ever to move to go non-grandfathered, that is off the table, and now Ramsey County can decide to do whatever they want to do. Okay? So I'm not saying that you need to reduce your contribution to your employees' policy, but I can tell you that as the years go by, we are seeing more and more employers that are having to have their employees pay a little bit towards the premiums just to help offset what we're seeing for claims costs. Now, that is a whole nother discussion, and even us as employees of Blue Cross, we all pay for our part of our premiums regardless of what your job is. It's based on your pay grade, so the more money you make, the more you pay towards your premiums. So that's how they do it. And we also have a $5,000 out of pocket for a single compared to your $1,750. So Ramsey County has an amazing plan. I can tell you from what I see now with the whole eastern side of the state, more and more companies are moving to extremely higher deductible plans than having a lower deductible. So Ramsey County offers a great benefit, and I hope the employees understand that, but it comes at a cost. So when you offer such a rich benefit, it's gonna come at a cost. So when we visited with Candy, kind of our recommendation was, especially in 2020, to not change your stop loss. If you were going to want to make a change, possibly go non-grandfathered in 2020, and then in 2021, look at that time, you'd have some claims history, at least 1 year of the people that are coming on board on January 1st.
Gary, when you say that administrative costs would increase if you went to a non-grandfather plan in the first year and then hopefully level off, what does that usually amount to in terms of a percentage increase on the overall plan?
It kind of really depends on the makeup of your people, Lucas. So, a lot of it depends on how much if you have men to women, because obviously with women, there's going to be that mammogram and that path every year that are preventative services, and it depends on how much they use them. With a colonoscopy, maybe that first year when people, if they haven't gone in to have one done, they get one every 10 years. So you might see that 1 year that you have a spike, and then of course those people that had a preventative, they can't have it again for 10 years under the preventative benefit. So it really kind of depends on the makeup of your people, the ages of your people. But the reason for the increase that first year is because now those benefits are going to be available. And a lot of it is going to be depending if they use it or not. We encourage people to use the preventative, but
Can you ballpark me a percentage?
I can't. I wouldn't even want to try to take a stab at that because it really would depend on how many people are going to use the preventative benefits. So,
Yeah, but that makes it hard to be in our chairs
Right.
and plan a budget if we have no idea what switching over could cost us. And then to know that the plan itself could be going up by 20%, in addition to this other increase, I mean, it makes it very difficult to have any idea.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's such an unknown because we don't know how many people would use the preventative benefits. That part, like I said, when you look at it, by doing that, it pretty much would increase by $5,000 in a year by adding those preventative benefits, total.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of one of those where, again, your administrative costs are based on how many claims are coming through. So we wouldn't be able to really break it out and say, is the increase in the admin based on the preventative, or did you have more claims that came through on non-preventative benefits? So your admin is based, it's 9.9% of the claims that come through.
But when you go, like on the chart that I have here, so when we go to the non-grandfather, we have a maximum cap on the administration fee though.
Yes.
So I mean, we're not looking at more than the possibility, it's $5,600.
Yep. So, and that's kind of the thing about self-funding. So when you look at it, there's a minimum and a maximum of what, so if the bottom completely fell out for Ramsey County and every employee on it had, the worst catastrophic event possible, you'd be looking at about that, $1.5 million worst case scenario, which less than 1% of our groups have ever, in the history of Blue Cross, ever hit that maximum where the bottom completely fell out. And what we do is we normally suggest to you each year, based on the claims that you've had, what we may see going forward, because of course, we don't have a crystal ball, so we're just anticipating what we've seen to go forward, because history is the best predictor of the future. We're showing you a maximum and a minimum of what we would say to fund your pot. You do not have to use these numbers to the penny. That is what we're suggesting you guys put into your pot to pay for claims. So if you feel like you have a healthy reserve right now, maybe you don't even have to increase what's going into that pot. But like I had told Candy, the problem is with entities like yourself, you're not selling widgets. So if you ever get to the point where you didn't put enough money in there, is there the capabilities of you just putting more money in, toward the end of the year to help pay for claims, because those come out weekly. So that's why the money you guys are putting into that pot every month or every week, however you do it, to pull money out for claims, that's your money. So you're paying Blue Cross, that's the monthly stop loss premium, but the money that's in there is to pay for claims. So if you have more money in there, that's your money. We're not taking that money. So we just suggest what you should fund it at, based on what we anticipate we're going to see for claims in 2020.
Let me ask you this, Carrie, is there any other public identities in North Dakota that are doing it the way we are? There is
Yes.
some, right?
Yes, there are,
Some
yeah.
counties,
yes.
cities?
And the reason I think a lot of them do that, when you get to be, even before Ramsey County was going to incorporate the other folks that were coming in from the other social services entities, your group size was about 64 people. Self-funding really, and Ramsey County's been self-funded. I've been with Blue Cross for almost 11 years and they've been self-funded for many years. And obviously self-funding, you're gonna have peaks and you're gonna have valleys depending on the people, you know, that you're gonna have good years, you're gonna have bad years. But again, if you were not self-funded, if you were what we call fully insured, on those years that are good, you're paying Blue Cross and Blue Shield premiums and those premium dollars are gone. You're paying those and we pay claims. So on those good years that Ramsey County has had, that money is being paid, goes into your pot. If not very many claims are being paid out, again, your pot grows to help maybe for the next year where maybe you have that valley. Now all of a sudden we have an increase in claims, but we had money in our reserve to help pay for that. So groups your size, self-funding normally is it works at groups 50 and more. So we have a lot, I mean, self-funded makes up a good portion of our business with Blue Cross and Blue Shield.
It does.
Because you have control over what you do. You know, if you're fully insured, any products that we have or any of the things, we have to follow what the Department of Insurance says. Self-funding has a little bit more flexibility where you can tweak benefits, you can, different plan designs, you can do a lot of different things when you're self-funded. Most groups tend to stay away from a lot of these, what we call deviations, because it just makes it complicated for their employees to try to remember everything that they have. But you have more ability. Plus, you don't pay the reinsurance fee. I think you have like an insurance tax break of about 3% that fully insured business pays when you're self-funded. So there is a huge benefit to be self-funded.
There would be a benefit probably if we had the employees pay part of it.
You-
You probably would get some feeling from the employees that got some ownership in the health plan.
And that's kind of what we see, Ed. I mean, we're seeing more and more where, I mean, to be honest, the average in North Dakota that an employer pays towards employees' premiums is only 76% of a single plan. So if you look at the book of business at Blue Cross, who has, you know, about 97% market share in the state of North Dakota, 76% of a single plan is all that's paid by an employer. Which means if you're on a single plus dependent with children or a family plan, they're paying for that.
Yeah.
Now, so like I said, Ramsey County has an amazing benefit package for your employees. And I'm not here to say, you know, make your employees pay towards their premiums. What I am here to tell you is that what we see statewide is we are having more employers having employees have some skin in the game. So it just does help take some ownership. Sometimes, you know, we kind of use the terms, if it's digging my paycheck, maybe I don't run to the doctor as often because I'm paying for it on the premium side, plus I'm paying for it on the claim side. So, as a self-funded group, you guys can have more control with your employees on, the people that are on this plan control the cost. So the more the plan is used, the higher the premiums are gonna keep going up every year. So,
But the flip side of that is if you have the expenses to the client be high enough, they may fail to go in to receive preventative services or checkups that, you know, will eventually cost us more, right? We all know that somebody having a terrible, massive heart attack is gonna cost everybody involved a heck of a lot more than going and getting, you know, the proper medication and treatment to avoid it. So there is, of course, a hidden cost to taking ownership in a plan, as you mentioned.
yeah, and I think, and sadly, with the inception of healthcare reform, that is what is happening in our country and in our state. We are seeing incredibly high deductible plans that are being put in place, to the tune of, you know, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 that people have to pay, you know, if they end up with a catastrophic event. What ends up happening is, you know, obviously we try to deter people from using the ER for a revolving clinic door. I mean, if you have a true emergency, obviously we want you to go to the emergency. If you're having a heart attack, go to the ER. But in communities like ours, we don't have, well, we are getting, I think, more of an urgent care. I believe Ultra is putting in after hours, but we don't have urgent care, your next bed is ER. And so those costs are so much more expensive And over the period of time, you know, that does add up and it does increase cost for everybody. So preventative services, again, put into a plan are to have the member pay nothing, but in a self-funded employer, then you guys pay for those preventative services for those people, but that we encourage people to use those preventative services. So,
Kurt, can I ask one question?
Sure.
Was there going to be, say we didn't add those 40 employees, was the percentage increase going to be the same regardless if we added them or not?
yes, on the stop loss premiums, yes, because that doesn't change. Stop loss premiums are based on like the level of the stop loss. Okay, so if you had, doesn't even matter your plan design, a $20,000 stop loss for Ramsey County was going to be the $338.01.
And
So
that
it
was,
didn't
that was
matter.
off of previous claims?
Yep, and that's just at the stop loss level. So as you can see, even though we were changing from grandfathered to non-grandfathered, if you look at the $20,000 columns, the stop loss premiums are exactly the same. It's just what we look at for what we're asking you to put in the pot. On the non-grandfathered, year one would be a little bit more money, just to make sure there's money in there for those preventative services, because you guys have to pay for those.
Thanks for the information. Any
Yeah,
other
are there any
questions?
questions for us? Okay, well, if there's something else that comes up, you can get a hold of myself, you can get a hold of Mike, and we can go from there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Congratulations
Yeah.
on your new role.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, take care, you guys.
Kevin?
Morning.
Morning.
I managed to lose my agenda, but we'll start with that approach on Ramsey. One, maybe these guys can get going. I did go out there and look at the location again, and it does make sense to put it straight across the driveway. All the utility poles are out of the way. Thank you. And it's actually really not a high spot out there, but it's actually the highest spot.
Running all over this place.
But anyway, it would only need one culvert. It wouldn't need a culvert between the bike path and the. There it goes. There. So, again, probably the best location would be, you know, straight across from here. I think the utility poles are about like right there and right there. And of course, there's, I don't know, a phone box or some kind of utilities by the posts themselves too, so. And like I said, if this is the bike path, there wouldn't need to be a culvert between the bike path and his house. Just a culvert in the main ditch.
That's the high spot, okay?
Yeah, if you wanna call it high, it's, I mean, it's pretty flat through there.
With the water, you have to go east or west.
Yep. I think it's all trying to go west, but it's really difficult without shooting it, it's that flat.
You can throw the LiDAR hunters on.
Yeah.
You don't really get a lot of water a lot of water running in the ditches out there anyway, it seems to soak in pretty fast. I don't know that other than maybe way on the west end.
Way on the west, that's
Way on the
way
west is
west.
probably the only time we ever
There's
see.
really no ditch by the bike path there.
No.
For the most part, those ditches are all mowed.
Wow.
back down here for the bus to turn around in, but it's not designed that way, so all the drawings or whatever would have to be changed. The actual road right away runs this way.
The road right away to where?
It comes down through here, and then goes north here, and then back to this road, Black Waller Drive.
The property line right to the west of Flynn's.
Yeah, this is actually their road.
So the road that's in there now is really not supposed to be there.
No, this is the road that's here now.
No, it's running right through the middle of that lot. And the reason that, well, I was told a while back is approaches aren't designed to be at intersections anymore, so that's why they're redesigned to go. It's just code, I guess, to go back, so it's not.
It's not real safe to have two of them.
Yeah, you couldn't have that road in the corner there.
No.
That would-
So I think putting it right straight across here is probably one of the better ideas. There is kind of a little spot through here where it's draining, but there's a utility pole kind of in the way there also. Not completely in the way, but.
All the neighbors are in favor of putting that in there over there?
Yes, they are.
I think everybody would be pretty well.
The only thing, caution I have is, what do we do in the future, you know? We've got Highway 2, old Highway 2, and you just start throwing approaches in everywhere, and then that was a discussion all year. I know that number of years ago, before Ron, or Mark was on. Remember that?
Where's this in?
Old Highway 2.
Well,
We wanted them on the quarter line, you know, or on the 80 rod, and then 160, and so on.
Precedents, once you set them, are pretty hard to ever revoke, you know. I think my biggest concern with it is that it's not a township road. And I know we talked about that last time, that if the county's gonna invest in the infrastructure, it, you know, it doesn't make sense to me that it's not a township road, you know. And I know that you said you'd pay for it, but I mean, in terms of maintenance forever, I mean, that's still an investment. And I'm trying to wrap my head around the fact that it's not a township, I mean, it's.
I know there's a lot of them all the way to the golf course, but, I mean, there really no rhyme or reason where they put them, you know. Or they put approaches off the county roads, and the developer, you don't have to put a road in. It kind of saves them that cost, you know. You guys have a road there, but I just don't know what precedents we're gonna set if we put one here and there and all over, you know. And there's probably way too many between 57 and the golf course. You know, there's some that should have never been put there. There should have been a frontage road put in. And then one put on the 80 rod line or the 160 rod line or wherever, even the 40 rod line would make sense, but how far are we from the 80 rod line there?
Yeah, not very far, 1,000 feet left,
Just go east a little more, or, no?
This is a section line right here.
Right.
Yeah, you ride over that dotted line.
We'd have to go
I think
west.
this dotted line was somewhere over here, was 80.
But back here would
Back in
be,
the middle would be your 40 rod, yeah.
Oh yeah, this would be the
Right, that
40.
dotted line right there would be your
Right
40.
here, yeah.
we think that's a half-mile line, a quarter mile line.
That's a quarter mile line, yeah. And then half miles down will be kind of on the right side or the east side of where the approach is now on the east side.
Right.
Would be the half.
When you put them in, when you're talking about putting them on the lines or whatever, then you wanna keep them on section, quarter line?
80 rod or 160 or
Yeah.
I mean, the
40, whatever. in there.
primary idea is not to have them so close together.
Yeah.
you know, so,
Well, that, and if there's, you know, we talked about it at the last meeting, if there's, you know, there's no suspected development going to happen south of the road, but you always wanna be under the assumption that something could occur, so that way you would have equal spacing, so you could put the other approach on the other side on the same spot.
Right there.
Because otherwise you're, depending on how that gets approved, then they could have a staggered approach, you'd have one approach on the one side, one on the other side. On a 2-lane like this, it probably isn't quite as concerning as on like the 4-lane on new 2, where you know.
I know the
staggered
situation out
approaches all over the dog.
on Old Highway 2 that time, was we just had to deny it, because there was no resemblance of what they were doing out there. I mean, they weren't putting them on a half mile or a quarter mile. Then there was an individual that was farther out from town and wanted one on the half mile line. Fine, you know, that made sense to me, because that person was gonna use it to enter a field. Well, it never got put in, so, but he wanted that option. That's fine with me, I don't have a problem with that at all. But I think the approach should be put in on this particular one should be put in 80 rod line. You know, so we can, if there's ever a need for one on the south side of the road, south side of County Line, we put it in the same spot so they're directly across from each other. Because if somebody goes off the road with a car and hits an approach, we all know what could happen.
Yeah.
And if you have it, I think it gives the county a more legal standing if we put them on, you know, an organized manner. I know if they're not an organized manner, just about all the way to the golf course. But I think we need to do that. I don't have a problem with the approach at all, but I think we should put it on the quarter just for that purpose, to protect the county.
So the county would pay for that approach?
Yeah.
Well, that'd be the first one, if we ever did.
First one we've ever done.
Are there any obstacles, putting it there, poles?
Not directly, but they're closer.
I would think not, but
and you said that was the low spot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That is,
the county could save some money if you put it across from our house, but I understand what you're saying, putting it on the quarter and half mile lines.
Typically, these approaches are paid for by the developer or whoever's asking for them, and then we take over maintenance after they're built. Like if the culvert.
that's what we've done in the past.
What kind of maintenance is involved?
Like if the culvert gets plugged or, I don't know, the 4-wheelers tear it up, whatever, I can't think of an example, but.
yeah, just like kind of ongoing maintenance, you know, culvert should be good for a long time.
Yeah.
Kevin, do you then ensure that they're built to
Yeah.
standards then?
Yeah.
And then if you go to the quarter mile like that, you'd have to have a culvert on both sides of the walking path? Because you're gonna go from the high spot at his place, and it will run, the water does run down to the east there then. you know,
It does.
so, yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's the springtime is more than any, you know, that's the worst time, as the snow
Right.
melts away. That's when you see our heavy rain, maybe some, but, cause it would fill in and back up and be on the road again there otherwise, I suppose.
Yeah, we would probably need a culvert between the bike path and the development road then also.
You think all the ones that have been put in prior to now, the people have put them in themselves?
Yep.
Okay, no matter where they were.
Well, not just that, but the people that came before us made that offer.
Right.
Unless we've got a big construction project on a whole 10-mile stretch or something, then they might put some in. But as people request them, it's up to them to put them in.
I just,
Most of the state does it too.
Yeah, the state does, that's their policy also.
state has the same policy.
Yeah, you want to approach them, let's say, how we look up to the,
Sort of the problems out here in Highway 2, you know. We've got so many ramps off, but the state has taken some off too. You know, they've gotten rid of some of the crossovers and there's just too many people entering the highway and slow speed and then major traffic's coming through at 70, 75 mile an hour, and that's why we have wrecks out there.
That's our major concern with approaches, is when people leave the road.
So that's one of the ongoing costs too then, is when you come through the construction project, you're paving a few feet out, stay on the lift, so you're not jumping right onto the road. So you don't break the shoulder or the stuff of the road off. And then you're also, if you come through the safety project or making improvements that require improvements to the approaches, then you gotta flatten the slopes of the approach too, within the clear zone of the highway. So there could be costs down the road with putting an approach in now. Just for that reason.
For the county.
Right. They don't necessarily fall under maintenance exactly, but
This might be a little off topic, but the speed limit there changes from 35 to 50, right in front of Yoder's house. Would it be a major hardship on traffic, changing the speed limit to 35 from east all the way up to Walleye Drive, and then at Walleye Drive, increasing it where there's not as many houses?
The traffic won't follow the speed limit if they don't see a reason for it. So people will be speeding up, and then you'll have people going 35, they're following the rules, and people are going 50 and aren't. And that's where you have more safety problems.
Yeah, it cause more safety problems and more accidents by lowering the speed limit.
yeah.
We did try to
There's
lower
no,
that
there's
speed
no
limit.
traffic calming effects out there.
It's 8 seconds. I did it this morning and it's 8 seconds difference from 35 to 50.
Right.
I understand your argument, you know, when you talk about the speed limit. Again, I invite all of you to come out and sit on my deck for a while and watch the craziness that goes on out there. People passing each other on there,
Yeah.
four-wheelers, I mean, it's dangerous. Sooner or later, something's gonna happen.
Well, I remember being on the high school golf team, and when you had to go there after class, it was kind of a race to see who got there first, and
Yeah.
sometimes it really was a race.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, it's,
Right, so I think having the speed limit lower would make that worse
I
rather
think
than
you got
better.
the speed limit trying to get it worse.
well,
And drop it through the entire stretch. You know, because you're going from 35 through that residential at Freezon, you speed up and then you gotta reduce your speed at the curve, because that curve is a lower speed than 55.
No, it's 50.
Well, it's 50, but it's not 55.
It's 50.
It's 50
It's
all the way.
It goes from 35 to 50.
But if you do that, I think you'll have quite a few people coming in to talk to us.
We did this before, and there was a delegation that came in and wanted to change it back.
yeah.
Left at a higher speed.
Problem with speed limits is they're almost kind of psychological to a point. If you don't see anything that tells you should slow down, you won't slow down. It's just that simple. If there were houses on both sides of the road and trees and things like that, all of a sudden it feels more closed in, then people slow down. And that's why, you still see people speeding through all the way out to where the 50 starts, obviously. But if you look through where, all the approaches come on, people generally watch their speed a little more because they know somebody could come onto the road. It's just it's just something that people do.
Biggest thing is enforcement, I mean,
Yeah, and enforcement's a
a
big.
year ago, the sheriff's department was out there quite a bit, and you could see a drastic reduction in the way people drove. Now, there hasn't been any law enforcement out there for quite a while. There's people that come into Freezon, I'll guarantee you, they don't slow down to 35. I mean, you look out there, they're blowing through there at 60.
Maybe we just gotta do a better job of setting somebody there occasionally, just to
Yeah.
bust a few people, and then the word gets around, and
Yeah,
don't have to do it often, but just occasionally.
yeah, enforcement's the key. You put the mile per hour thing there, and basically I just compare that to, you're checking their odometers to see if they're accurate or not.
Yeah.
It only works so well.
That don't help?
No. That's it.
It's just like enforcement, it's temporary.
Yeah. All you can do is try your best to try to slow people down.
I see your point about putting approaches in at those designated areas, but I still think putting it in front of our place would be the best, not only for us, but for the whole subdivision. So, and plus the county would save some money if I paid for it.
Could you set up a, let's say your president's is setting up a quarter mile line or whatever, could you make a policy where, what is it, I can't remember the term I'm thinking, where someone could apply for a variance? And then you could look at that, and then you could maybe go on a case-by-case basis, or you think you're still setting precedents by, here's where it could be, but we looked at it and we'll let this one move over with the variance.
Well, I mean, the hard part about that, of course, is if we give a variance to you, and the next people that come in, even if we do have a process that's case by case, they're gonna say, well, what made them different,
Yeah, no, exactly.
right? I mean, so it's just one more step to basically having a fight with people anyway. And maybe I'm the only one who cares about this, but Kevin, what did you figure it would cost to get that up to, the whole road up to code?
You mean the approach?
No, I mean the
Oh,
whole
the road,
whole road.
subdivision road. Yeah, I mean, there's no ditches at all, it's a pretty flat road, so you're probably talking 20,000-30,000 minimum. And then if you go all the way through there, it's even gonna be more than that.
But, I mean, so, and I might be the only one who cares, that if we put an approach, we should try to bring that whole road up to code. Could we do that, and then, like I said last time, create a special district and have them, pay it back to us over 10 years in taxes?
There's a process for that, but it has to come from,
Yeah, we can't force that.
the county can't do it, put it that way, it has to come from
The subdivision has to.
Landowners, property owners.
But to me, I would feel a lot more comfortable with it if it's $30,000 being paid by 6 parcels of, well, more than that. What, 8 or 9 parcels of property there over 10 years? I mean, you're not talking hugely significant tax increases, and then at least the approach that we're talking about putting in goes to a road that's up to code. Maybe I'm the only one that cares, but.
Let's say that you did that, does the township they would have to advertise that then if they want to do that? And then it would have to be, let's say you've got 9 lot owners or 9 property owners, does there have to be like a majority of them say yes, and if some are opposed it, they don't have a choice? Is that how that would process it?
Yeah.
yes.
So is that a super majority, or is that a over 50% majority on that one?
Know that answer, but
I think the problem with the whole concept of bringing the road up to code is if you look at the lines on there is, so the road, the frontage road in front of the houses, does that sit on the lots or does that sit in a right of way?
There's a right of way,
There's a right of way.
it's dedicated for the use of the road.
Okay, so there is a right of way, so who owns the right of way? Because the township doesn't take care of the road, because the township denied taking care of the road when it wasn't built to spec, so whose right of way is it? Should be the township's right of way,
Yeah.
but they denied taking the road. So even if we build it to spec, we don't have to take it on, because when the subdivision was made, they said, we're not taking the road, correct?
That's a possibility.
But didn't we hear from the landowners that the township would take the road?
Well,
if it
maybe
was
they would,
built to spec?
I'm not saying they wouldn't, but I'm just saying that we
I don't know if
can't.
they said they would, they said they would not if it wasn't built to specs. I don't remember if they said for sure that they would if it was built to specs, but.
well,
I'm just making sure they don't have to buy any right of way or anything like that, because at that point, they're not gonna do that.
we don't want to get into that.
No, I know.
We don't
that.
have to, we don't want to get into it.
The whole point of this is, and I understand, I have empathy for your situation, but this should have never been allowed to be subdivided the way it was subdivided.
That's why I thought for the simple plan of putting an approach there, I'd pay for it, we'd maintain it, have it built up to spec, the approach, and we'd all live happily ever after, so to speak.
I agree with him. And Kevin went out there and he thinks that's the best spot
That's fine.
for it. I mean, there's poles, there's low. I'm gonna make a motion to approve it.
I'll second it.
Okay, the motion is second. Any other discussion?
And I guess the reason to put them on the quarter lines, whatever, is because it saves on how, first, that site distance is one, and then the other thing is that if 2 different people in like agricultural state, that 2 different people might own one side or the other. So you put the approach on that line, you save an approach, because that they can both use it. but here, I don't think that's really as much of a concern.
You know, there's just no problem.
I don't think so. I mean, unless somebody else bought, you know, if the parcel on the south side got split, then you'd have that same issue again, but.
How many approaches and everything is to the, from 57 to the golf course, did you guys say?
Yeah, or he thought that was,
Some, Tyler.
Yeah, I don't have that number in front of me, but it was a substantial
I
amount.
thought it was like 52 maybe, if I'm thinking right, but
I
did
want
he
to
count
say
it?
47.
Maybe.
Well, like you said, the problem was is when they were allowed to subdivide at that point in time, they weren't forced to put frontage road in, and build a frontage road spec.
There was no master plan whatsoever. And it- you can take the state highway, they didn't have a master plan out going on
No.
Highway 2 either.
Incremental development is a good thing, but you still have to have plan development.
I think the property to the south, I might be mistaken, but I think, wasn't that where the dike was originally?
Yes.
That
I
was
think
what I
it's
was
locked
told.
up for at least 99 years from when they did the dike project. I think that's where the dike was originally supposed to run. So it's somehow that's John Coots' pasture. I think it's locked up somehow, so we won't be here when that's developed, if it ever is.
Comes a backup or secondary to what we are.
Somebody else, it'll be somebody else's problem, is what you're telling me.
Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Put your approach in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're gonna put it in this month?
As soon as possible. I talked to Todd Kraft 3 days ago. He asked me when it's approved, get a hold of him, and we'll go forward. We'll get the culvert from Kevin, and whatever needs to be done, we're gonna do it.
Yeah. Well, I think the county wants Kevin to
Absolutely.
have the final say when it's done.
Yes.
Whether it's good
I'm
enough.
gonna do it right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank you.
Carry on, Kevin.
All right, let's start back up at the top. The base stabilization project on the truck route is now done. I don't know if anybody's been out there to look at it, but it's been raining, so it's kind of hard to get a good view of it, but it is a much harder road now. Any questions on that? The graveling on Ramsey County 9A is done. And the paver patches, they should be getting at those pretty quick. They haven't given me a firm date, but whenever they get their plant going again here in town in Strata. That slip line culvert, that's supposed to start this week. I don't know what the rain meant for him, but I think he was starting middle of this week. So any questions on our upcoming projects or our project we're working on?
I figured they must have been done with 9 of the trucks were driving past my house anymore. Been a lot of them.
Okay, the bridge inspection by Church's Ferry, the estimated cost for all 3 bridges was $29,408. And just visiting with Lester, he thought that Benson County would go for their 2 bridges. So it's roughly gonna be around $10,000 for each. And they're still looking at probably getting it done next year, not this year anymore. But it's pretty intense. I mean, they gotta go look at if the scour is washed out way down by the footings, and there's a lot of things that they look at when they actually do these, so we get a pretty good inspection for that cost.
I would hope so.
So I guess we'd be looking for a motion to go ahead with that project.
Okay,
Move to approve.
Second.
motion and a second.
You guys are just fighting today for 30 seconds.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Okay, and the Ramsey, or Greater Ramsey Water District wants to put a 1-inch water line. Let's go back to out on Ramsey County 1.
Right where that approach is.
It is
Put it in before the approach is there.
a strange location, but
They're gonna bore it, huh?
they are gonna bore it, yes.
Board your case. Yeah, we go to cases.
To their advantage too.
Just a 1-inch line.
Yeah, it just must serve a home, one home. kind of a weird location, stop. It's right about,
Oh, which road's now? Here we go.
right about here.
The line,
Where
the
that, where that
line's on the
train-
north side of the highway?
Yep, he wants to go this way with his,
The line's on the south side of the highway.
South side of the highway, okay.
yeah, right,
Yeah, because we've allowed them to bore across the highway
Right.
multiple times for the houses on the north side.
yeah, exactly.
No problem.
I'll make a motion to approve allowing them to go to the water line.
Okay, we got a motion, we have a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried.
Okay, at the Commissioners Conference in October 7th, we meet with secondary roads at 3 o'clock for anybody that's gonna be there. There's short meetings this year, 10, 15 minutes at most, so.
That's what it's going to, huh?
Is that the first day?
Sunday, it's Monday.
Monday, so what night? Because we always met Tuesday morning before we leave,
Right.
right? So we got her done Monday this time, that's good.
Yeah.
Good deal.
And then also I'm looking at getting quotes for putting up the guardrail on that Morris Township Bridge. KLJ is gonna be helping with the materials list and there's instruction sheet and their cost for helping us for that is gonna be $1,925, so it's under the 2,000 threshold, but I know absolutely nothing about guardrails. Hate to even admit it. It's a moving target, it changes every 2 years, so. We wanna get it right the first time.
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, motion and a second, guardrails on Morris Bridge. We can roll call that when the bill comes in, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried.
And then I'm also getting quotes for buying chips for next year. I called 3 different places, I didn't get one quote, so I'll have to deal with that at the next meeting, but.
Okay,
And then the last one, the bill for Soper's graveling on Ramsey 9A was 94,000. Candy, can you read that number? I don't have that number.
$94,458.60.
Make a motion to approve paying the bill.
okay, we have a motion to approve the bill for 9A traveling. We have a second?
Second.
We have a second?
Golly, we are just doubling up today, I tell you what.
Roll call.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Lycon,
Aye.
Frith,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
So I have,
Thanks, Kevin. Okay, discussion on the 2020 budget. We heard Blue Cross. Imagine everybody got their tax information in the mail. Got it on as discussion, let's see what we got to say. One of the questions I had with Kevin on that 3 on the paving of that was about 9 million or something.
it was 2 million, 2.1 plus engineering.
On
2.1.
2.2.
2.2?
22. The Mullen Drive, right? I mean, Ellis Drive.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Elks
Drive
Drive
before.
And,
We're doing Elks Drive as well,
yes,
as part of it. Oh, I didn't know
like that, 3/4 of a mile or whatever it
that.
is.
So from US 2 up to Old 2, we're gonna do Elks Drive, and then we're gonna do County 2 all the way out to 4, and then we'll stretch of County 2 there.
Yes.
How much are we, and it's, the total project cost is 2.1, but we're not assessing 2.1.
No, there's like
You got 10 on the blacktop, 10 mills,
Right,
and then where are we getting the rest of it from then?
the county road fund, which had the surplus. So there's no mills,
On that?
yeah.
So we're just assessing the 10 mills to get the project done, basically, then, for that 610.
10 mil to get that project approved.
Well, then
1-year deal.
there's federal aid in it too.
Yeah, there's like 400,000 of federal aid too.
How much federal aid do we receive a year that we bank usually?
It varies, but around 250 to 300.
I would assume that if we split that up and did it in 2 different paving runs, it's gonna cost more
Yeah,
than doing the whole stretch.
because you assume the inflation.
Inflation cost. I'm just looking at it from the aspect of, you know, we're assessing 610,000 for it. If we wanna get costs down someplace, we can pull 5 mills off there, push the project for 1 year, and it's gonna cost a little more, obviously. But then we're gonna bank another 300,000 of federal funding, so we could assess the 300,000 this year, have enough money next year with the federal funding to assess nothing more, or 2 years from now into 2021 and pay for the whole project then.
Theoretically, we should be getting our gopher money in
Yeah.
21 also.
And then after that, any projects 2022 going forward, hopefully we can pay for off of that, whatever, the groundhog, or I don't know what they're calling it, gopher or what.
Or, yeah.
Great, gopher money, I like the gopher
I like
money.
to go for doing it.
I mean, that's just one place if we wanted to find some cuts, we could do it. I mean, I don't prefer to do that, I'd rather get the road done, but.
Then we're just, what's our project for the next year?
Well, then we got 3 left up south of Hamden.
Hamden to 17,
That'd be
right?
the last one, that'd be the one we got left in the 22 years I've been here.
And that's the one we pushed to do first.
That's pretty good, if you got a 20-year rotation on your pavement, that's better than a lot of people are doing.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. You know,
You can borrow ahead under federal aid a little bit too. If you,
what do you say, Paul?
you can borrow ahead under federal aid.
How much can you borrow out?
Probably one year, depending on how much surplus they have, but
You know,
So we could maybe ask them to push that 300,000 for 2024, or for 2021 forward to next year then. And then we could maybe just assess that 300,000 instead of the 610, and then after that, the prairie dog money kicks in. Plus we'll have federal aid money rolling then too.
We should definitely look into that.
Yeah, because then, I mean, we could save 5 mils. It would get us, not perfect, but it would get us closer to break even at least.
Right.
And that's kind of where I'm sitting at, is I'd like, you know, I mean, the farm economy is obviously, everybody knows, not good.
Right.
And we want to try our best to at least hold even as best we can to not put additional taxation on. I mean, because 70% of our tax base is from
Yeah.
outside of the city limits of Devils Lake, and most of that is agricultural land. So we want to try our best to, I mean, there's going to be some big time cash flow problems this fall. So we want to try to keep it down.
You think that money can be borrowed ahead? You pretty sure?
at least
Yeah.
a year.
yeah.
Or, yeah.
Well, it depends on if there's a surplus, and it seems like every year there is a surplus, so. I think the road would, can wait another year, I mean, it's not that bad, there's one little short section, maybe 300-400 feet long, that needs to be overlaid.
You feel like you can hold off another year?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
But if we're gonna cost us that much more.
That's why I don't want to wait, because I mean, you know you're going to have 5% additional cost by waiting here too.
but the difference is that if prairie dog money does come in the next year, I mean, my point is that it's actually gonna be functionally a lot cheaper, you know, in terms of taxation on the county.
Remember when that prairie dog comes, it's gonna come to every county and city in North Dakota. That means bids and work is gonna expand a lot.
Yeah, it's
And
gonna
that's
cost
Contractors
money
are gonna
for us
be
too.
busy.
That should drive the inflation even higher.
Yeah, and that's why I want to get it, but the thing is, the prairie dog money's not gonna come till August of 2021, so we can't count on that money to pay for a 2021 project.
Right.
That's gonna be for the project the next year. So if we could pull ahead our federal aid money, pull that, you know, if we're gonna get 300, split that mill levy in half down to the 5 mil or whatever it's gonna take to get the job done. Then we can do the project next year still, get it done, and then 2021 will be an off year. And then, yeah, an off year, and then 2022 we'll have the Prairie Dog money to do the Hampton the 3 project north of 17 then.
Yeah.
That way we can still save 5 mils, try to get closer to breaking even in terms of not increasing the tax load, and still get the project done.
2021 would be a construction year, is that what you're saying?
No, 2020, next year would be, because next year's our construction year on 2, right?
Right.
Next year would be the construction year on 2 still, if we can pull those federal aid funds ahead. 2021 would be a planning year,
Okay.
North 3 and 2022 then.
No,
Because then the Prairie Dog funds would come available that fall of 2021, and we would have that money, that 1.6 million that's gonna roll in, or projected, could go to that project then the next year, and it would probably cover most of the project, because that's probably only what,
10 miles.
10
Well,
miles?
This is 14.
Yeah, so that 1.6 will cover that project in 2022 then. And we can save ourselves 300,000 or whatever on taxation this year to try to get back to that number.
And besides the federal money, borrow it on that.
Yeah, and there'll still be federal money in 2022 then too.
Right.
Because we'll just be trying to borrow ahead our 2021 money. So we'll have almost $2 million available between Prairie Dog and the federal money in 2022 to do that Hampton project.
Well, it's nice to have more of the federal money in a federal project too, because,
It is.
well, it's easy, you know, because the cost of the federal aid jobs are a little bit higher.
Well, yeah, they gotta go through.
They gotta pay
Davis Bacon.
They gotta certified payrolls and all that stuff, that they have a lot less book work on just using like Prairie Dog funds or the previous state funds.
Is it something where we can know ahead of time if we'll be able to pull those federal funds forward?
As
If
far
we
as,
talk with the DOT right now,
we can do it when we meet on the 7th, yeah.
yeah, the problem is, when do we have to approve our final budget? Yeah,
Oh,
because we're gonna have to have an answer before we approve that
Okay.
final budget.
When is our next, when's our October meeting?
I can call them today even, or
Yeah, I mean, just so we have it, I mean, just so we have an idea, because our budget meeting is gonna be the next meeting here in September. So if we have an idea by that second meeting here in September,
Okay.
if that's gonna be an option, I think that would really give us some wiggle room to help get the budget back where kind of we want it to be. At least in my mind. I don't know how everybody else feels, but that's kind of where I'm at.
Makes sense. We'll finalize that on the 1st of October, our next October meeting.
Yeah, yep. But we'll have our hearing next meeting, so. I'd just like to have answers by then, so we can at least tell people where we're gonna be at with that. Because this sheet I have, where are we at actually on mill levy then, total? After I do my taxation thing.
105.85.
105.85, last year we were 100.64. So if we could get 300,000, we save approximately, what's up my calculator?
$4 million.
Divide that by 61,000, yeah, it'd be 4.91 mils reduction.
If it's 300, it might be a little, I thought it was a little less than that.
It might, yeah, I'm just ballparking right now. So that would get us to get us to 100.94, which is within shouting distance of last year to be equalized. Now, we're still counting the valuation increase, obviously, but.
Yeah, that would be workable, I think, then.
well, you know, hinge on a surplus out there, but generally they have a surplus every year, so.
You think we can find out like in.
Before the next meeting, easy, yeah.
But the city is only giving the library the same as what they did last year.
Well, I thought they increased it, but not by, they didn't increase it at all. Yeah. Well, in that case, in that case, there's no reason for us to increase substantially either. Because the whole idea was you wanted to hire a whole new permanent salary, and you can't do it with half the money that you,
You're gonna have.
you know.
How much would that save us? Where were we at last year on mills? The mill levy was pretty close to the same as last year, actually.
Yeah, it's not a huge saving. The only thing that I would request is that we do keep the technology budget that the library requested in our increase. It'd save you about 16,000, so.
And last year we were at 6. So, in that ballpark.
Go around just under 101.
Well, if we were able to pull ahead on the federal aid, we would be at a total budget kind of, in terms of what we're taxing, at about 6.161781. Last year we were at about, and that's, I'm not pulling out the rural mill for like the library. Last year we were at about 5.874, so we'd be within, still be, about $280,000 increase, but that's basically the increase would all be just in the valuation capture. But I mean, we could, maybe find a little bit of savings in some other places to try to get us somewhere close.
Well, instead of asking Kevin to reduce his budget, can we ask the other departments to take a look at theirs and whether there be some equipment or other expenses, so we're not taking away from projected salary increases and benefits, keeping everything the same for our employees that was projected, but reducing maybe equipment costs, putting it off for a year or things like that. Because it puts we put a tremendous burden on our highway department, although that's the biggest budget. But if every department took a sharp pencil and erase your budgets, maybe we could save that 280,000 or 250,000 or whatever it would be, or come close to it, and so we'd be.
I mean, that would be the hope. I mean, if we can find, I don't know if we're gonna be able to get all the way there, but if we can try our best to get there. The other concern I have though is that the budget as presented here, we're not accounting for a $250,000 shortfall in the health insurance.
Right.
So, I mean, that's off the books. So if we don't do something to either determine plan change or a contribution change or however we're going to handle it, then next year we're gonna be looking at less money in the fund and still a $250,000 shortfall plus probably additional money next year because we know the costs are gonna rise again.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden we've gotta put $300,000 on the backs of the employees or find a way to do something to make up that difference, because we're not gonna, more than likely not gonna be able to just throw it on the taxes. So I think the year, if we're gonna do something, is now to look forward, so we don't compound the problem next year. Because we've got some, we don't have to go crazy, but I think we should at least look at options, whether it's, and I agree with Carrie, we don't wanna go with some crazy high deductible plan or anything like that. But I think we should look at some possible options and talk with the employees and see where they feel we should go, so at least we have an idea of what we wanna do. Because I would hate to not do our due diligence now, and then be looking down the barrel this time next year going, what in the world are we gonna do?
Yeah, no, I agree with you, but this health plan is gonna crush us either way.
Yeah, I know, the costs are gonna
No
be.
matter whether we keep the one that we've got or if we go to the new one, I mean, you're gonna be talking about a substantial increase over the next couple of years.
Well, and just out of curiosity's sake, I had Candy run the difference of, because my thought is this, my concern is if we do anything with the contribution, you're gonna automatically eat up all the raises in the staff.
Sure.
I mean, because we don't want anybody moving backwards, we love it. We have to try our best to try to stay in that number. So Candy, just out of curiosity, say if they just ran a 97% employee share, so if we asked the employees to pick up 3% of the insurance share. And,
That's not including social services.
yeah, and this is just on the county side, because we didn't run social service, because I figured any kind of increase there, the state's gonna pick up.
Right.
So we're not too concerned about what's going on there to a point. I mean, we still have to look at that, but.
That's right, Rhonda, right?
Correct, those are direct costs, those that we picked up at State North.
But the take home still would be less though, because we're still asking for an employee share, so you're still gonna have more money out of pocket, and the state's not gonna pick up. But even at a 3% insurance pickup by the employees, we're still we're basically eating the raises up at 3%. I mean, so it's a tough pull.
I think it was quite obvious today, Kerry just was definitely trying to lead us down the road of employee contribution to this health plan, so. I mean, whatever we agree on, I mean, I think it gives them some ownership. Anybody that's ever done it that way before, the schools or any other county, they all say it seems like it brings the costs kind of in control somewhat. I know the expense of health insurance is just out of sight, but they got everybody scared, which you should be, I guess.
Well, the other option, and I should have asked Kerry about it, and I didn't, is, so right now we're at a $1,750 deductible. So if you went to a $2,500 deductible or something, would that save us money? Because and this is why I'm looking at it, is because right now on this projection, if you even just went to a 3% employee share, you're at $69 a month. So if you take that times 12, that gets you $840. Well, if you're banking that I'm probably not gonna use this as much as, maybe you haven't hit your deductible in years past, then the difference between $1,750 and $2,500 is only $750, but if we can save money on the front end, we could stay at 100%, not put it out of the employee's paycheck, and you still only have that deductible cap that only went up $750. So your risk assessment goes up a little bit for the employees on the deductible side, but if you get lucky and you don't have any claims, you still keep the money in your paycheck and you don't have to pay it out in a deductible. It might be an option. I'm just trying to brainstorm ways we can try to keep everybody at the best coverage level we can, while at the same time avoiding pushing the gorilla down the road, basically. Because we're gonna have a problem with it this year, next year, the year after, and it's just gonna get worse. Like Lucas said, it's gonna keep getting more expensive.
I struggle if I should say this or not, but I really feel like full disclosure would be, Rolette County has 18 employees who have never had insurance. That Carrie misspoke, she said, oh, they're probably on North Dakota PERS, no. Rolette County offered I think a Blue Cross policy, or perhaps
It's only 70%.
and they only pay 70%, so a lot of, 18 of those employees have chose not to take insurance. So I'm curious, I don't know what this, I'm sure there's statistics somewhere out there on a new person to insurance. If they use it more, they use it less, I don't know. I'm a little worried about that, because there would be 18 employees who have never had insurance that would be coming on to the group with our insurance plan. I don't know the statistics on that. I wish I would have looked it up, but I don't even know if you could find anything like that.
Yeah, I don't know those statistics either. The only statistic that I'm aware of is that on average, people, it's the concept that people will cry wolf and go into, the doctor all the time is a little bit overblown. Because who wants to spend their day in a hospital? And so if it's not that serious, even with insurance, there's a certain rate of abuse. But if I remember right, it's something like 10 to 20%. So I mean, you still have 90 to 80% of people that are using it only for the things that they need to. But I'm not aware of whether or not people come. And honestly, if they're coming on to health insurance, you'd almost hope that they would use it more in the first year to try to catch up on all of the examinations that they should have been having for all those years and have not.
Yeah, well, that's what'll happen. If you haven't had insurance for multiple years and you come on the first year, it'll be like, I've been to the dentist in 5 years. I'm going to the dentist, baby.
However, they're very young. They're not, they're younger employees.
Well,
I don't know if that
and
makes
18,
it
like you
fair.
said, haven't taken the insurance, but I'm sure some of them probably have insurance through a spouse or something that's probably better, and that's why they haven't taken it. Or maybe they're part of the tribe up there or something, and they have
I think
IHS
they're
access
encouraged
or
to take
something like that.
IHS,
I mean,
which
they might have other options. We don't know exactly what the situation is.
Which I don't understand, because IHS here, which is now Tribal Health, and all IHSs, they want coverage too, they want a bill, they want a third-party biller, so I don't understand how they're getting away with that, quote-unquote, with not being pushed every time they use IHS services or Tribal Health services here. Where's your third-party payer? They wanna bill somebody too, they don't have a endless pot of money to just provide services, although treaties would tell you they do, but they don't. And so I'm not sure how, was just baffled by that.
I mean,
Their auditor said that they'd all be coming on.
Correct.
Isn't that what she said
She's-
the other day?
yeah, if they can get 100% coverage, of course they're all gonna take our coverage. Why wouldn't they?
Right.
The thing I would say is that, and this is a what if, obviously, but the state is supposed to pick up 100% of the healthcare premiums and the stop loss and everything. So there shouldn't be any additional cost to Ramsey County as long as it's billed out correctly, that everything from the social services aspect is being paid for Bismarck.
Right.
Now, the concern would be, is that when you have 18 employees under Rolette County's current budget and none of them are budgeted in for insurance costs, is the state gonna balk at cutting that check?
No.
I
No,
mean,
well,
no.
Sanford
I
went
don't
up
think they are either,
18%.
but I'm just playing devil's advocate, because I don't wanna get us in a situation where all of a sudden
Well,
it's next July and
We got a
it's like, where the hell
problem.
are we gonna come up with this money?
Well, Sanford went up 18%, and state employees get a full family and full single paid, so they're prepared for that. I mean,
But
that
they're
they
in that
budgeted
range
for that for 2 years, so,
That's there.
yeah.
And I don't think I mean, our insurance costs here are higher than I've seen in other places, but we're not that far out of the ballpark even at the 23. I mean, the city's cost, if I remember correctly, I saw was around $2,000 a month for a full family plan. And their single plan actually costs like $500 a month more than ours does.
But they're at 80-20.
And they're at an 80-20 split, but still, I mean, the total premium costs really aren't, I mean, they're in the ballpark. They're not perfectly matched, but I mean, this is just, like you said, I don't think it matters what we do to a point. It's gonna keep escalating.
It doesn't.
The only thing we can do is try our best to ease our way into figuring out how to solve the problem instead of having to hit it up against the wall, you know?
Well, the real truth of the matter is that it's not solvable. And I hate to say that, it's
I
just
know
not.
it isn't.
It's not what?
It's not solvable.
So,
I mean, healthcare costs in the United States are ballooning and have been ballooning. It's not news to anybody, they've been ballooning. What I thought was really interesting, my undergraduate degree was in health policy. And when I went to Denmark to see sort of like what the perfect idealized version of healthcare should be, every single person that you talked to in Denmark that was in the healthcare field was complaining about ballooning costs. And they made the point, which obviously, if the United States' total expenditure on healthcare is X number of $billion, hundreds of billions of dollars a year, or even trillions of dollars, that's probably.
It's like 20% of our GDP.
Right, so trillions of dollars. If it increases by 20%, that's a much bigger number than Denmark increasing, but they made the point that even in Denmark, even in places like that, the overall rate is lower now, but it's expanding as quickly as the United States' rate. So the whole developed world's healthcare expenditures are going up by about the same amount year to year. Then you couple that to the fact that the United States has a baby boomer generation, and I mean, you're potentially talking about some significant fault lines showing up in, so.
well, like Gary said, full families, there are very few identities are doing it. Businesses aren't. I mean, I don't know.
I'm trying to remember if it was, I read an article a few weeks ago, if it was Norway or Sweden, it was one of the Scandinavian countries where the government, they had to dissolve the government into the parliamentary system because they couldn't come to an agreement on how to come up with the money because of the health insurance costs. You know, they have a national health, they have a national health insurance plan, and they couldn't come with an agreement to figure out how to cover the costs. So it's not a problem just here, it's a problem everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, so like going to a single payer healthcare system might cut your costs down, 1 year, like, or a short time frame, right? A couple of years once you get the administration right, by 30 to 40%, but then after that, it's gonna be increasing the same amount as any kind of healthcare. And that's the challenge.
Quit going to the doctor.
Any other thoughts on the 2020 budget? Any other direction we should go? Look at?
Instead of going in percentage, you could go a dollar a month across the board. Just a thought. You know, so much for a single, so much for a single,
Yeah,
plus
yeah.
so much for.
Yeah, you'd have to set it on a per plan basis because you can't say everybody needs to contribute the same amount when you got families versus singles. Yeah, maybe something to look at too. I mean, it's just, you have to look at different ones.
I think she was trying to warn us.
And I can check on that deductible stuff too.
Yeah, I'd just be kind of curious, and in all honesty, I mean, if you look at their projection numbers or whatever they're looking at, you're going from the plan we're currently in to a non-grandfathered plan, costs a slight bit more, but you actually get better preventative coverage and everything. So if there's a way, maybe we can raise the deductible, move to the non-grandfathered plan, give people better preventative coverage, I think it might be something to look at.
How many outstanding plans do we have right now, total?
64, wasn't it?
Yeah, that should be.
I think she said that 64 in
Should
the
be
carries.
history, so.
And the county,
We're at 64 contracts right now,
county's on the hook for the first
180 people
20,000.
first 20,000.
Well, but that's,
per person.
but that's 64, that's employees.
Yeah,
That's
we got
not
180
including-
members right now in our plan.
Right.
So we're on the hook for
Okay.
20,000
Yeah.
times 180,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
3.6 million, right?
That's,
Yeah, right. And so that, to me, that's what's really scary, is if you have, and you're likely not, and it said less than 1%, but even if you were at half of that, I mean, that's still catastrophic, and in that way, they really got us against the wall. I mean,
yeah, that's where they want us.
Well, our expected claims annual funding just at our current rate is we need $2.2 million to cover between premiums and between stop loss and between our dollars running in. I mean, think about that. And that's all funded through local property tax, other than, basically everything's funded through that. So that's like 33% of our budget that we assess locally goes to health insurance costs. That's crazy.
well, and it'll be more next year,
Yeah.
and more the year after.
I know, and I don't know, yeah, it's a tough pickle, it's a little look at. I think the main thing is if we're gonna make any changes is we have to have a good conversation with the employees as to why this is occurring. So everybody knows that we're not just doing it arbitrarily, that we're trying our best to keep them whole, because that's what we're attempting to do here in this discussion.
This is more talk we've spent on health insurance since I've been on the commission in 9 years. This is more time we spent talking about health insurance than we've ever talked about altogether in 9 years.
Well, that'll happen when you take a 21% increase. I start talking about it.
It was just like a nasty word when you said it before in the other year. So, I mean, I really think if the employees pick up part of the tab, they take some ownership in it. I just,
But I
it's
think-
like anything.
But I think if you're gonna go that way, I actually prefer Adam's idea of going to a higher deductible. Because then that way you're not recouping your expenses from anybody who isn't using the service. You know what I mean? So you go to a higher deductible.
How do you know when you're gonna use the service?
Well, you don't.
Nobody really knows.
Well, the whole point is if you can save the money up front by going to the higher deductible, you're still capping the out-of-pocket expense of the employee while not taking it from their paycheck.
Right.
So if you're a family, you're probably gonna hit the deductible.
So if you're
I mean,
talking
it's
about
just-
ownership and not abusing, going to the doctor, if your deductible is higher, obviously if you've got a pre-existing, you've got a condition, you're gonna be spending more than $2,500 in that year anyway. But if you don't, and you feel a little lightheaded, you might not go to the emergency room for it. Is my point.
You get to make your own decision if you should go or not and take the ownership of the deductible. Like me, when I look at our deductible on our health plan, I just budget in on hitting it every year, because I know we have. Between my healthcare needs and the kids, I know
Well, yeah.
I know we're gonna hit the
I'm
deductible,
not
so I
arguing
just
that
budget
at
in.
all, I mean, families take care of it, You need to be healthy, they can't grow unless they're healthy.
No, we can't. And I mean, I don't think anybody, I mean, if you look at like our high dollar claims that they have sitting here, I mean, a lot of the costs come from our high dollar claims, and that's not anybody abusing the system, that's called, they're using the health insurance the way it's meant to be used, that's why we have it for them, so that it's not catastrophic for them.
I'm not trying to discourage anybody from using it.
No, I know what you're saying, you're just saying that we have to find a way to make it work.
If anybody's on the street telling me anything, and I suppose I listen when they talk with that there's hardly any identities or businesses that are paying full family.
Nobody can afford it.
Very, very few. So, if it has to be 3% to start, so be it.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm coming from, is if we can incrementally say 3% one year and maybe 2% to get to 9, or,
I think that's very, very reasonable, very reasonable.
Candy, would you be able to get the answer to the deductible question for us? If you were to go from, what is it, $1,750? Well, let's just use average numbers then, to $2,500. Does that save us 3% on plan costs?
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what the numbers have to look at. Can we save that percentage up front that we would be charging, or essentially trying to pass on to our employees on the back end?
I think we should spend some time looking at it.
We got a lot of answers today from Carrie.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
A lot
it's good
of,
having her
a lot of insight, very good insight from her, telling us probably what we should, that grandfather policies and contracts are gonna go away, and they probably are.
Well,
Blue Cross don't like them, they didn't like them 9 years ago, I know that.
and if you're gonna have the employee pay part of it, you're gonna have to switch the plan.
Yeah, we have to go to the non-grandfather at that point if we're gonna have any kind of percentage.
Anything over 5%, I think you said.
That's right, that is what she said, but that's still, if you're using that then.
Like any kind of change.
No, she said you have a 5%.
She said you had a 5% variance, so we could go to like a 95.5 and still stay on our grandfathered plan,
Yeah.
but that's not a guarantee we'll be able to stay there long-term either, so.
Right, I mean, you're basically kicking the can 1 year then, you're going that direction.
That's kind of the way we do the budget, 1 year at a time. So, any other discussion on this 2020 budget? Thoughts? Okay, we'll move down to information on the basin, Delaware Basin Water Stewardship Program.
That's our award that we give out on an annual basis. Application deadline is Thursday, October 31st. We'll give that award out at the annual conference in Bismarck in December. And it's the 5th of December this year. It's at the Grand Coda, and we generally, if they're not somebody that's already down there for the conference, we generally pay for their room and their travel to that conference for that individual or somebody representing a group or a project.
Okay. We advertise it for that, I'm sure, Jeff. Very good. Information on the court facilities. What do you know about this, Candy?
That's just information telling them that there's grant money out there again.
They'll tell us what they want to do up there.
It's good forward on the numbers.
Okay, don't need to do nothing more there. Any Discussion on HR.
Well, I guess I have some questions. Some things have come to light regarding employee discipline. And I don't know if all the board members know this. One of our supervisors was disciplined for disciplining one of his employees, and he was written up and the employee was not. And I would like it explained how that's going to function. Anybody?
Function how so, I guess.
How are we going to discipline our employees that if any time one of them gets disciplined, they run to the HR and cry?
Well, I suppose it would I would imagine it has to do with the manner in which they were disciplined.
Yeah, and that would be my.
There's a pretty big, difference between a verbal disciplining and somebody threatening somebody.
Okay. We've had these employees for years. Now all of a sudden, all these things are becoming issues.
Well,
It's kind of my point.
people are battered wives for years. I mean, you know what I'm saying? If you
I do, but
you can't necessarily make that equivalency and say that there haven't been problems. I don't know, but I don't know because this is the first I've heard of it. I'm just saying that that'd be what I need to know.
you know, and over those years, if there were issues, any portfolio you have, in time, you get to know your people and you get to talk to your people and you know how they act. And I believe that everybody in Ramsey County works fine and well together. And I just wanted to explain to me why you could, discipline an employee and then run to the HR and then we don't need them. We don't need department heads anymore then. We may as well just get rid of them all. Because they're not going to be allowed to do their job.
Yeah, I disagree.
I struggle talking about this in an open meeting because I don't want to bring to light anything that occurred, is what it comes down to, Mark. And I apologize if that's not an answer you're looking for, but at the same
time,
time,
answer I'm looking for.
I know, but at the same time, I would have, and I'm not saying I want to go around open meeting laws, but I would have appreciated if you would have brought it up outside of, and visited with whoever the portfolio holder was.
Well,
I think that would have been a more reasonable way to do this than an airing dirty laundry in an open meeting.
it's not dirty laundry. I mean, everybody knows.
Not everybody.
Not everybody knows.
Not everybody knows.
Yes.
Not everybody knows.
I don't know, I just don't understand how you're gonna, from a business person who, when you own your business and you put managers in charge, those managers are supposed to manage your people. And if they can't manage their people.
And I don't disagree with you, Mark. I'm not on that position at all. We have to empower our management to do the job they need to do. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But in this particular situation, the determination that was made after the concerns were brought forward was that the manner in which the discipline occurred was not necessarily proper. And that's why the concern was taken forward. Now, if there would have been things that were brought out during the, looking into it, and it would have been no problem, the problem, the discipline that occurred wasn't necessarily wrong. It was the manner in which it occurred. Plain and simple.
And I think, at least from my perspective, relationships between the county and its supervisors, its managers of people, should be the same as with any other relationship, which is you trust them to do your job, but you verify that they're doing it the right way. And that's what HR is the but verify portion of that.
Yeah, and I think the department head in this situation knows that the commission supports them doing their job, but we just have to go about doing it in a manner that, is probably a little bit more, perfunctory to what has to occur. But, at the same time, like I've talked about in meetings before, I think part of that onus is on us as a commission, because we haven't provided enough training and leadership opportunities for our department heads either. We should do a better job of helping them do their job better. And I don't think we've done a good job of that. And I hope we can do a better job of that going forward. Provide them the tools necessary, so that when discipline has to occur, it's handled in the appropriate manner. That's all.
I believe it was handled in the appropriate manner,
And I value your opinion.
and,
That's fine.
you know, nobody would have known about this had I not brought this up, and, you know.
But that's the point. An employee situation should be handled in-house.
This is in-house.
It isn't, it isn't. I don't necessarily disagree with you. I see where you're coming from. I see where you're coming from. But at the same time, I will say that I disagree with you.
Well, we've had the discussion, and that's the end of it.
Anything else on HR discussion? Okay, visitors delegations, anybody want to address the commission? Portfolios. Adam?
Kevin already talked about what was going on. I didn't get to our last Florida Devils Lake meeting because I was commenting. Rhonda's here, we can talk a little bit about, I think our meeting with Rowlett County happened after our last commission meeting, correct? Everything's kind of a blur. We had everybody come down and meet here. Ed was also able to be part of the meeting. I think it was a pretty good a step forward in terms of where everybody's at. Yeah, everything went really well. Rowlett County was actually pretty amenable to everything we were talking about, so that was very welcome. You know, they obviously have their concerns about how things are gonna happen in the state, because they voiced their concern that, you know, in the past, they've had some problems with how things were handled, and that's not unreasonable, but at the same time, I think we're all on the same page that this is something that is gonna happen regardless if the train's down the tracks, basically. And they wanted to talk with us and they wanted to work with us. The questions, I think we all kind of came to the agreement on how the board composition should work to a point. Obviously, we would be the host county, they would take our benefit packages. The main question was, how are the indirect costs going to flow back to the different entities in the zone? So we tasked the auditors talking together, as well as the social services directors of the two zones, to determine how those indirect costs need to be split up, and they'll work with the state's attorneys too to figure out how they're billed out, and we'll try to get that percentage right in the zone agreement, but otherwise I think we're in pretty good shape.
Yeah. I thought it went very well. Did you, Rhonda?
Yes, it went very well. And we're meeting tomorrow, the directors, to try to, but the auditors need to come up with some numbers, so we're working on it.
Yeah, and to just to fill everybody in, and I don't have the list with me, but there's certain costs that used to be paid for that now are gonna be rolled out basically to a point, but the indirect costs that roll back, the question is, obviously, in the zone meetings we've had previously, between Benson, Towner, and Ramsey, the state's attorneys were all fine with continuing to handle all of the child welfare cases that they have to handle on their own. So we have a pretty good idea, I think, in terms of what those costs are gonna be on a per county basis. The question would be, is that indirect cost that comes back also is supposed to cover any kind of payroll, bookwork, all those kind of things that have to happen behind the scenes to make things occur. The question is, what percentage of that should come back to Ramsey County, because we're taking on all the payroll work, or all of the insurance work and all those kind of things, and what percentage should stay with the other counties, because they still do have to, you know, come up with, you know, they still have work to do too, to get the numbers to payroll and everything. So we just have to figure out what percentage needs to stay with the other counties and what percentage needs to roll back here, basically, to cover our costs, so we don't have to incur additional costs because of being the county host. And I think that between the auditors and the social service directors, we should have no problem getting a number that'll work for everybody. And board composition, I should have mentioned, is we're looking at 3 from Ramsey County, correct? So it'll be 2 commissioners and a at-large member, 2 from Rowlett County, since we both have very similar caseload sizes. And then Towner County would have 2, and Benson County would have 2, which would be more than likely a commissioner and a at-large, I think, is how we were going to structure it. Remind me if I'm wrong.
Well, that brings us to, I think their discussion needs to be, that brings us to an 11-member board.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at 5 or 6 for it's difficult to have a quorum depending on the time of year, so, yeah, the law reads you need a member at large also. Some of the commissions have gone to some of the zones have gone to allowing the zone administrator to have more than one commissioner to keep the board composition down lower, so there's less number for a quorum, just for efficiencies to do board business. So I think, yeah, we'll have to have those discussions.
Yeah, and then that was just a starting point.
Right.
I mean, if you wanted to keep the quorum number down, you could just go 2-2-1-1 and the social services director too. There's options, that's all I'm saying. I'm just throwing stuff out there. But the meeting went well.
Yeah, it did, very well.
That's the main takeaway. I'm trying to think if I have anything else to bring up. Oh, no, nothing else.
You're good?
Yeah, I'm good.
The Heritage Center is set to begin after-school programs for kids, so I think they bring on 17 kids, that'll be good. The total number of visitors going through there has really dropped off because of the downtown project, but I don't know that can be blamed on anybody. At the library, it's unfortunate that we weren't able to convince the city to do that. There would have been a lot of good outcomes from having a second full-time staffer, but seeing as that's not going to be the case, one of the things that we did, or I chose to do alongside that, was empower a subcommittee to look at employee performance and library performance, process performance. So it's a really sort of a broad-reaching sweep of how the library chooses to do business to see if we can find efficiencies. So that's going on right now. We'll see what they come up with. Crystal was kind enough to volunteer her oversight on the personnel-related issues so that we don't run into any hiccups with that, so it should be taken care of. Other than that, I don't think I have anything.
Jeff?
Airport Authority, we met beginning of, middle of last month. Not a whole lot new. We did set a new record in July for a number of boardings. I think it was over 800 people for the month. It was really quite impressive. For Devil's Lake, I did go to the Kojak Snack and Pack open house out at their new facility, and very impressive what they have going on there, and I have a lot of confidence in that project moving forward and being successful. They got a lot of really good people involved with it, and got a great business plan, and they're producing a good product, so looking forward to something staying in that building and doing what was proposed initially. Chamber meeting last week, they have an open house ribbon cutting for herbology, the medical marijuana facility at Thursday, I believe, 9/5. Is that Thursday?
This Thursday?
That would be Thursday.
At 9:30 this morning, or that morning. So, they served a whole bunch of people at their fish fry, had probably the largest one that they've ever served at or can remember. And their wine walk is scheduled for September 12th. 6 new businesses have signed on for that, so they have 24 total businesses.
Holy smokes,
Yeah.
rolling people home.
Yeah. And then
Smaller cups.
Yeah.
Smaller cups.
their annual meeting is out at the college October 23rd. And I guess I did want to mention on the accessible drinking fountains, I think having just one per floor is inadequate. Unless that person happens to go down the other end of the floor, they're not going to know whether or not that other end of the drinking fountain, other end of the hallway would be an accessible or attainable drinking fountain. And I think that you know, if you can't stagger the heights to make one higher or lower, to accommodate people in, with disabilities, that a cup dispenser alongside would be very beneficial. You have a little Dixie cup dispenser, you can put the water in and then take a drink. I see those in a lot of healthcare facilities. Makes it easier to take medication orally if you have a cup of water versus them trying to get enough water out of a drinking fountain. And all they do is they have a garbage can right on below the drinking fountain for the cups when people are done with them.
Well, I mean, that's a great idea. The total cost would be $500 to outfit the whole courthouse.
Right, well, yeah, I think you still need to have the push button drinking fountains to make it easier for the people with mobility issues when they're.
We're not getting that?
That's one of the things we are getting.
One?
Well,
One per floor?
one per floor. You know, it'd be better if we had, you know, replace both of them on each floor. You know, and the conversation that I've had with Mr. Gunderson is, instead of attaining a level that's just adequate or meets compliance regulations, let's raise the bar and become you know, a higher than the lower bar is as far as our accessibility. Because a lot of times, you know, people with disabilities, we don't want to ask for help. We want to be independent and do things on our own. And whatever is there is, well, it's good enough. You know, I can get by. Well, instead of just getting by, I think let's raise the bar a little bit and become, you know, a shining example for our public that we serve.
I'll back you on that. We've got a commission that's 40% disabled.
If I could just add, I mean, no disrespect, we really need to take a look at what the ADA standards are and abide by them. It can't just be what's the cheapest, what's the best option for installation. We really need to look at ADA standards and what they are and how we can best accomplish that. And I agree, raise the bar.
Okay, let me ask you this, Rhonda. Who in town has one of these? Schools? No? I wanna go look at one.
It's just bookstore ones.
There are lots.
They're everywhere. It's just, the difference.
Something different I'm missing here?
No, the difference between the handicap level one and your normal quote unquote is just that the normal one is a little bit taller. The handicap style ones are so you can roll under them like in a wheelchair and use the phone. That's basically what they are.
Awesome.
The conversation we had was the automatic eye to fill a cup or a water bottle. That got ixnayed because of the expense of the filters for the water bottle filler, apparently. I didn't look at the question. Yeah. People cannot use that are in wheelchairs that come to our agency, cannot use our water fountains. They're just not accessible.
Right, yeah.
I mean, even if there is a slight increase in cost going to the ADA accessible ones, we put them on both ends.
This would be an example. I was down at the Grand Forks Clinic here about a month ago, and you know, they have two of them there, and then they have the push button in the front, and at varying heights. And then at their hospital, they have actually one height with the cup dispenser, like I was mentioning. And, you know, and I think, you know, ADA is a good starting point, but it's difficult to have that one document meet all the needs for people with disabilities, because disabilities are, you know, vary from person to person. I think it's a good starting point, but it's at the very bottom of the low.
Correct, and I don't think ADA the standard would be one on one end and not on the other end of the hall. That's my point.
Right, yeah. You know, but for years, you know, it's been.
And maybe he went that route because it doesn't have enough money in the budget.
Well,
Okay, I just suggested to Adam that he talk to him. He's under Adam's work.
I think raising the bar would really.
I assumed he was doing that, I guess. He's doing that on one per floor, right? Is that correct? Is that correct? We'll look into that.
Getting the bottle fillers?
no bottle filler is too expensive for the filter. Apparently, someone at the college gave them that hot tip.
There's a filter to it?
Well, you can get it so that it's got a bottle filler that
Yeah.
you can hold, but you can fill it at an angle too, it's not.
There's a bottle filler there as well.
Other than that, extension is, you know, busy with harvest and 4-H and different things like that. You know, keeping those weeds at bay, you know, the palmer amaranth, I think it's up to, I think 6 or 7 counties now in the state that has had that discovery of that palmer amaranth, and that's a nasty one. We need to be vigilant on that.
Quick question for you, Jeff, how long do you realistically think we have before we get zebra mussels?
They're here.
They're here. Are they?
Yeah.
You know, it was, they estimated that those ones that were discovered in Ashtabula had probably been there for 2 years, because they were at varying stages of their life cycle. So the ones that were discovered had probably been in there a couple of years.
Pelican.
You know, so I think staying vigilant with whatever's being done, and whether or not, you know, what we do need is for recreators, boaters, anglers, to let game and fish know if they have discovered something that's could potentially be an aquatic nuisance. You know, there's several aquatic nuisances out there that could be extremely harmful for the ecology of our lake and decimate our fish population, you know, tremendously. You know, if you put lowering lake levels and then add a couple of aquatic nuisance species into the mix, you could set yourself up to really having a devastating effect on your game fish.
But I mean, once they're here, right, there's not really a way to address it.
Exactly. You know,
So if they already are here.
well, we haven't discovered them. They haven't been identified and discovered and shown up. So if they are here, nobody has said anything, which shame on them. It does change the classification of a body of water and the rules and regulations regarding how you drain things and how you move from one body of water to another. So Ashtabula all the way through the lower Cheyenne and the Red all the way through is a class 1 body of water, so they, you know, can take water out of their bait buckets and move bait from one site to another. They have to clean, drain, and dry just like everywhere else, but they have some other requirements that are put in place because
More
of,
stringent.
yeah.
All right then.
Anything else? Mark?
Sheriff's Department, everything's running pretty smooth. They're going back and forth down the road, hauling people here and there and everywhere. The LEC, I know they were supposed to have a walkthrough last week to check the cameras, and they were supposed to be done the 1st of September. I do not know if they're done, I don't know if they're done.
They hope to get done this week.
I don't believe they are done. I know they're getting fined daily now that they're not done, but other than that, that's,
They had a hiccup on some of the intercoms.
yeah.
So, but the outfit from Wisconsin that sets us up and gets them working, they're here.
How many inmates do we have in the LEC right now?
70-ish.
Like the last
They
meeting.
can change every morning.
Well, yeah.
Like he said,
It's gonna change today, I'll guarantee you. There's a lot of people in court today, so.
65, I think they've been trying to stay around that.
I know the last time I checked, it'd been 68 to 74 right in there, so.
And the budget at the LEC hasn't been finalized.
No.
I'm not sure what direction it's gonna go. We'll probably be informed, but I don't know if we'll know anything in the next meeting or not. But, the city is the hang.
I would think maybe we'll have that discussion this evening.
Anything else? Any announcements? We're good? Motion to adjourn. Thank you.